Michael Buffer has a cameo in this movie, and they make him say, "Let's get ready for Dumbo!" That's a thing that happens. So the whole point of these Disney live-action remake things is that it's basically another version of making a ride based on one of the movies, right? Remember that thing you like? Here's an experience of it that's slightly more tactile in some respect. The trick is almost everyone remembers watching these things as kids, but while some of them are legit great movies and classics that hold up and you just have to kind of remake the movie that people remember with actors and sets, others are super dated and don't hold up or won't work in live action, but people remember parts of them or the idea of it, so you gotta figure out what the hell you're gonna do. Now the original Dumbo is definitely the second type. If you haven't seen it in a while, it's mostly famous as the most old school cartoonish of the feature-length Disney stuff, stylistically, and for its bizarrely sparse narrative, which, if you forgot, runs barely more than an hour long and mainly involves life just beating the shit out of a baby circus elephant for 90% of the story. Then the baby elephant accidentally gets shit-faced drunk and has a surreal to the point of psychedelic nightmare, after which he wakes up and is informed by a group of racist caricatures, probably the worst ones that are in a movie Disney will still admit that they made, that he has mutant superpowers, which he then uses to return to the circus as opposed to doing literally anything else. So yeah, obviously they were going to have to make a different movie, though I'm still not sure why they made this movie. Directed by Tim Burton, because sure, why not? The new live-action Dumbo opts to ditch the talking animals aspect and center a new cast of human characters as Dumbo's friends. Set shortly after the end of World War I, it opens by breezing through a condensed 20 or so minute pitch-dark gritty realism version of the original movie before segueing into, essentially, Dumbo 2 BioShock, but at a circus. No, really. As what the hell do we do with this live-action Disney solutions go, it's right up there with turning Sleeping Beauty into I Spit on Your Grave fairy tale edition for Maleficent, but this time they also forgot to make a good movie while they were making a batshit weird one, though they did remember to make every single shot as ugly, cluttered, grimy, and unpleasant to look at as possible, in addition to being a tonal nightmare and borderline incoherent, so hey. Officially, the main plot features Colin Farrell as a circus cowboy who returns from World War I missing an arm to find his wife dead from influenza, and he and his two children reassigned to elephant training duty for Danny DeVito's cash-strapped traveling circus. When his science-minded daughter discovers that big-eared baby Dumbo can fly, it turns the circus into a success and draws the attention of Michael Keaton as a sinister businessman who's sort of an evil Walt Disney, sort of an evil P.T. Barnum, but clearly mostly supposed to be Thomas Edison, who wants Dumbo to be the star attraction at his sprawling, ultra-high-tech New York City Art Deco theme park alongside his supposed acrobat muse played by Ava Green. As you may have surmised, there's kind of a lot going on here. Yes, he's a bad guy. Yes, it turns out seemingly forward-thinking park is actually a dystopian retro-tech hellscape. Yes, he's going to screw over the overly trusting circus people, and we're going to learn a lesson about not selling out to the man. And yes, there are sinister schemes to thwart and henchmen to battle in a big escape sequence wherein everyone who's had a fear to get over a skill set that's been belittled will have to either get over it or use that skill set in order to pull off the rescue and get Dumbo and his mother out of danger. And since it's a Tim Burton movie, it's also incredibly over-designed and strange-looking and occasionally needlessly grim. You might be fooled into thinking something interesting is going on, but no, it isn't. In fact, for all the stuff going on and what a bizarre premise they've built out of what was already a strange setup, it's almost remarkable how not interesting Dumbo is throughout. Part of that is that none of these characters have any real dimension outside of how they're meant to relate to Dumbo himself, and the film doesn't seem to want to have him around much of the time. The CGI, to be polite about it, doesn't look very good, and the effect of a sort of photorealistic elephant flying mostly looks, an elephant flying was never going to look possible, but it never once looks remotely believable or cool in any way, and it seems like they knew that and just kept him off screen whenever they could. As a result, we're mostly left with the human characters who seem to have been compiled exclusively from producers' notes, all of which seem to have been informed by the Disney producers, feeling very paranoid about the whole racist crow thing and trying to make the film as progressive as possible wherever they can, and it just feels embarrassing, fake, and try hard. The circus is now a multicultural rainbow coalition to rival the equally anachronistic positivism of The Greatest Showman's Benetton crew. There's a late in the game, oh by the way, I guess we learned making animals perform is bad in general thing that arrives without any actual build-up in the story, a pro-girls in STEM subplot about Farrell's daughter that pays off in the most way. I have a lot of questions about that way you could imagine. And while I'm sure there will be a lot of people who want to read some kind of rebellion from the inside take into the bad guy being a Disney-esque theme park huckster gobbling up independent acts, with this happening at the same time as the Fox buyout. No, guys, come on. The generic anti-capitalism is as generic as the animal welfare and diversity stuff. Insincerely woke, family-friendly gloss that wouldn't look genuinely righteous even next to Captain Planet or the Burger King Kids Club. Dumbo is probably the worst of the live-action Disney remakes so far. And while I know the main question most people ask about these is, should I take my kids and is it too scary? And I'd say probably not, because it is weirdly grim and dark and mean-spirited, just like the original, but more so because it's also so ugly looking aesthetically. It's also dull and empty and unpleasant. Whatever ideas it has that aren't bizarre and bad are just going through the motions. Like when they sort of stage a floor show version of Pink Elephants on Parade and they just keep cutting back to Dumbo looking at it and there's no reason, nothing happens. It's just there to eat up screen time because it's one of 4 things that everyone remembers from the original. It just has to be there. 1.5 stars. All right, what's next? Oh, what the f-